cussing me out left and right, up and down. How could you do this to us?
Independent adjuster being deposed about some shenanigans they witnessed at the insurance company.
And then they changed your scope to represent the insurance company's guidelines.
I found this on the Hurricane Ian show on YouTube.
You, representing the insurance company, went to the policyholder's house. You viewed the damage yourself. You wrote a scope of the damages and estimated the damages. And then they changed your scope to represent the insurance company's guidelines, and that scope that they represent, they left your name on it. Yes, sir.
Say what?
Shenanigans. Hi, this is the DYOJO podcast.
DYOJO podcast.
In January of 2023, a few things were happening. Pete and I...
Hi, everybody out there, JoJo Nation. This is the Global Watchdog, Pete Consigli.
We're working on our lessons learned from storm response workshop.
We can't recover as fast. You're a critical part of our sustaining our economies globally.
The podcast was producing several segments on a case, a storm response out of Texas, where a contractor was suing a school district for not being paid. Sad music.
Entire dry and dehumidify about 450,000 square feet within Sam Houston High School for a price of $2.50 per square foot. The total price for this emergency services rendered was $1,245,600. It's a lot of money. It's a lot of money. It's a lot of money. I believe the AISD and its board could be trusted, so my company swung into action. Over the course of days, near round-the-clock work, Sam Houston High was dried in and dehumidified. We did the job we were hired to do.
Initially, as contractors, it's like, what the heck is going on? This is ridiculous.
This is not a game, cupcake!
And then as you read into the details in the court case, you're like, well, maybe the school district has a case. Yeah, I mean, this is complete hogwash. And obviously, the truth is probably somewhere in the middle.
What are you, stupid?
That company, unfortunately, folded, went bankrupt, and closed up shop. A lot of lessons to learn from that interaction. A lot of times people mobilize and think storms, man, we're gonna make so much money.
Because you can lose your company on a large loss. You do a $300,000 or $400,000 loss, and then you sacrifice your credit line, you borrow money from your friends and family, you hawk your truck, anything to get that loss done. Then you don't do it right. Politically, you don't do it right. Not maybe technically, politically. And the adjuster plays that let's make a deal 90 days later.
I'm a man of my word.
It's a risky business, but you can protect that risk too by doing it right.
That voice you're hearing was that of Jim Thompson. He has a great book on large loss. My Life is One Disaster After Another. And you can usually see him at RAA industry events. He was on episode 98 of the DYOJO podcast.
Not back in the spray bottle, I'll tell you what.
A good friend shared, walked away from several projects and never regretted it. Whereas there's been projects I've taken when I know I shouldn't have and almost always live to regret them. Thankfully still live to regret them. But those sometimes can be hard lessons to learn, especially when you're thinking, man, this could be really good. Or this would be great for our community, or all of the above. Two really important questions. You can sign my work off, but are you the one that's going to pay?
Any property that you're going to go on, who has control of that property?
So you're in charge around here.
Better yet, who doesn't have control of that property? They could withhold that information from us.
Just asking somebody, do you have the authority to sign my contract? And if they say, yeah, sure. Okay, do you have the authority to initiate payment? Well,
it's got to be agreed upon. Like, I agreed to do this for this. The simpler, the better. Or the more understood, the better.
So you might want to go back and look at those, the RJC, Robert Jordan Construction versus AISD, Arlington Independent School District. And then I came across information from a podcast where Stephen Bush, a lawyer in Florida, was deposing independent adjusters. So for those that aren't aware of what that is, the insurance company hires licensed adjusters that may or may not work directly for the insurance company. Independent typically means they don't work directly for the insurance company, but they are licensed. They went to these losses, observed and documented the damages, wrote an estimate that they felt accurately reflected the scope and cost of repairs, and then come to find out what was actually paid to the insured was significantly less because a claims representative or someone inside the insurance company decided to revise, cut the scope and cost based on what Stephen Bush calls insurance company guidelines, those kinds of things. We want to thank our sponsor.
I will not bow to any sponsor.
Epic Estimates. Any estimate, anywhere, anytime. Let the award-winning Epic Estimates help your team write the next Xactimate or Symbility estimate, freeing your team up to do what they're good at while helping your business maximize productivity and profitability. The Restoration Industry Association. Connect and collaborate with your industry peers through the largest nonprofit professional trade association dedicated to the unique plight of restoration contractors. Join us April 8th through 10th, 2024 in Dallas, Texas for the RIA Convention and Industry Expo. Actionable Insights has built the Actionable Xactimate profile, which provides live estimating guidance while you work in Xactimate to help your estimating team avoid costly mistakes. Create accurate, more complete estimates with the Actionable profile. It's a no-brainer for anyone looking to upgrade their Xactimate estimating workflow. No more estimating mistakes, no more missed line items. How to Suck Less at Estimating. Habits for Better Project Outcomes. Book number 4 by John Isaacson. This is available in paperback as well as an interactive course available through our friends at Restoration Technical Institute. Gain valuable insights on setting your estimating team up for success, processes and procedures for good sketches, detailed photo documentation for claims, how to level up as an estimator, and field resources such as using Xactimate for materials list and budgeting. By taking the 6-module course, again through our friends at Restoration Technical Institute, you can gain 6 hours of self-paced instruction that are eligible for continuing education credits with the IICRC. Thank you to our sponsors. Please let them know that you heard about them on the DYOJO podcast.
You have entered the DYOJO podcast.
So you guys were working these claims, you were visiting with the policyholders, you were looking at their damages, writing their estimates, and Sean, why don't you tell us what happened after that?
Let me first give credit. I found this on the Hurricane Ian show on YouTube. It says whistleblower insurance adjusters describe fraudulent activity on Hurricane Ian claims. If you're watching the video, the person that we're first viewing straight ahead appears to be attorney Stephen Bush, who is conducting the interviews. This appears to be a video produced by the American Policyholder Association, known as the APA.
Okay, so I began submitting the claims, and as understandable, it took a while for the files to begin being reviewed. I noticed on my first claim that was reviewed was I received a notification that from a Exact Analysis, which is the system that runs our estimating system, that a file had been quote unquote collaborated. This particular claim was a tile roof with substantial damage to it. Therefore, I estimated to replace the entire roof. However, the collaboration, the reviewer changed the estimate to reflect replacing 499 tiles, which I thought was really unusual.
Collaboration issue where someone changes your estimate but leaves your name on it, that's definitely potential for getting yourself in trouble.
The changed estimate is no longer my estimate because I didn't change it, right? So obviously I was upset and asked him about it, and his response was that, well, they changed the estimates in order to reflect the carrier guidelines.
And then when they left your name on it, the scope that they were presenting to the policyholder did not reflect the proper damages that was sustained from the storm. Is that correct?
Okay, so if this gets your blood, temperature raising, apparently the lawsuit that kicked this off was brought by SFR Services, a South Florida restoration firm, and claimed to have text messages from United Desk Adjusters and other company personnel that instructed field adjusters to avoid estimating wind damages altogether, to downplay damages damage estimates in hundreds of claims or to add false information. Of course, the representation from Universal said, "This is absolutely not the case with Universal," said attorney Travis Miller. "The company simply has never in its history had a practice of altering, manipulating, or doctoring independent adjusters' reports for delivery to insureds." He suggested that the adjusters had confused Universal with United Property and Casualty Insurance, which was the defendant in a lawsuit this year that alleged similar actions by United employees. So, to some degree, I could see the insurance company saying, no, that was the third-party administrator. We weren't aware this was happening, but some of these are direct lawsuits with the carriers directly. Thought that was pretty inflammatory, exposing some of the underbelly of what can go on. We do try to be fair and balanced, even though that's been taken over by others. But, talking about when contractors maybe are in the wrong, and in these cases where it clearly seems like insurance companies are in the wrong. This story and Stephen Bush, his efforts, came back to light recently with a segment from 60 Minutes.
Confused, he went back to compare the damage report he wrote for the Rapkins to the one the insurance company sent to them.
For those listening, in one hand, he has a very thick report, which is his initial damage assessment for scope and cost, written in Xactimate, one of the common estimating software platforms used by insurance companies. And in the other hand is a very thin report, which is what they actually sent to the insured.
That's your work.
Correct.
And this is what they were given.
Totally different.
Later, Jordan Lee learned a desk adjuster who'd never been to the Rapkins' home had deleted entire sections of his report, but left his name and his license number on it, making it look like his work.
Or an insured, a policyholder were watching this, you're seeing on screen examples of an Xactimate estimate. So Xactimate is an estimating software. You create a sketch which creates the dimensions and square footage, linear footage, those kinds of things. It's very helpful from that standpoint to get quantities. And then it's written room by room, line by line, so a very detailed estimate when used properly and transparent. And so obviously this adjuster wrote for roof replacement and significant interior damages. Scope, damage assessment, and cost. No one makes up the numbers. If you enter the line items, they all add up to this amount. It's supposed to be objective, impartial, the program is. So as long as you enter the right scope notes, it creates a cost based on quantities. He wrote north of $200,000, and like the customer said, they received an assessment of $15,000. Their deductible was $5,000, so the check's $10,000. And then apparently they had a public adjuster involved who took $1,000.
This is not okay.
When the role of the public adjuster is to find those discrepancies in coverage and advocate for the customer. And in this case, doesn't appear like those efforts were successful by any objective measure. He said he went back and looked at his files, and he estimates he ran 46 files and 44 of them were altered. And so the reporter asked, were any of them altered in favor of the insured?
No.
It was always down.
It was always down.
Down by as much as 98%. One estimate he wrote for $488,000 was changed to $13,000. Another from $239,000 to $3,000.
The segment goes on to show that particular adjuster testifying before the Florida courts, and then they go on to talk to another adjuster who testifies to the same. The title of this video, again, this is from 60 Minutes. Florida insurance carriers used altered hurricane damage reports, whistleblowers say. This particular one that I drew clips from was about 13 minutes long, but I believe there's a longer portion of the segment.
Some 50,000 homeowners are still battling their insurance companies from that storm. And now there are allegations that they're being cheated.
Faking the facts on a claim is not acceptable, and there should be legal consequences for that.
And there should be legal consequences.
Quite interesting. There's been obviously some interesting conversations, particularly on LinkedIn, about this topic. To try to give some wide-angle perspective, someone I've come to really respect, Bill Wilson.
Hey, fellas.
Author of When Words Collide, which is if you are honestly interested in understanding how insurance policies work, Bill's famous saying is RTFP, and his advice to insurance agents is read the full policy. But if that directness does not quite get across, RTFP, you can supplement read the full policy with another F word, a 4-letter F word, another 4-letter F word. Read the policy. Maybe be great advice also for contractors advising policyholders and carriers who are implementing guidelines as opposed to policy language. Hey, could we read the full policy? Which, by extension to contractors, because that's the contract, the policy is a contract between the policyholder and the insurance carrier. The contract with the scope of work and cost estimated is, that's the scope contract between the contractor and the customer. So what we'd like to tell our project managers and those that are executing that scope, read the full scope, or read the scope if they're not getting it. Read the scope. Effing. The frigging. Okay, I said it. There, I said it. We did a segment on let the structure speak. Has the structure ever lied to you? Let the structure speak. Because, let's face it, the structure doesn't lie.
Pardon me, Mr. Perfect!
Maybe it's hidden things, concealed things, or not released all of the details, but we're all familiar with bias, right? We're naturally inclined to see our perspective as the right one, and sometimes we question others.
What would you say you do here?
They're always trying to nickel and dime the contractor. The carrier is always questioning the contractor. This is the DYOJO podcast. Why is it so stinking expensive? The customer's kind of caught in the middle. What the heck is going on between you two? DYOJO podcast. We're tackling the topic that often gets lost in the noise during insurance claim disputes, letting the structure speak for itself. Let the structure speak. The structure should be allowed to speak for itself in relationship to the damages and what is needed to repair it. The policy also is the contract between the policyholder and the insurance company. So, it should spell out what is and isn't covered. Obviously, there's a lot of gray areas, but it should be what is referenced in making these decisions, alterations or otherwise. My latest book, P2T, Preparing to Thrive in the Modern Workplace, is out on Amazon. I wrote this book as something that business owners and managers could hand to new hires and young professionals. Short, simple read, but it shares a lot of what will set them up for success in their career and in your company. I think you as an owner and a manager will find great value in this, and it's being handed out by the dozens. Here's a sneak peek at a review we received on Amazon from someone who read the book. Very nice review.
P2T, Preparing to Thrive in the Modern Workplace, is a comprehensive guide that serves as a playbook for both young professionals entering the workforce and managers who are tasked with leading them. This book, designed as the first in a series of easy readers, is a valuable resource anchor that bridges the gap between academic preparation and the practical skills needed in today's rapidly evolving job market. Isaacson has designed this reader with accessible language especially for English learners, and 2 to 3 page long chapters. This is a win for neurodiverse learners.
Bill shared a personal story, where he felt comfortable making a compromise with the contractor and the insurance company, felt it was reasonable. So there's, anytime you got people involved, there's intricacies. And regardless of how well a contract or a policy is written, there's always ambiguities. So it's all part of a discussion, negotiation. And so it is important to temper, to say, oh, everyone's out to get everyone. Contractors get cast in that, lawyers, public adjusters, insurance carriers, adjusters, those kinds of things.
The best thing a contractor can do is not tell somebody what they think. The best thing a contractor can do is ask strategic questions to reveal what the other person is thinking. All I do is I ask the strategic questions that I can anticipate answers to, but I want to understand what they know. It's not important if I know it.
Yeah.
I want to know what they know, and I want them to explain to me what they know.
I am not cutting my hair.
And then I want to ask follow-up questions about what they've explained to me so that I'm understanding.
Bill noted on LinkedIn, following a tornado last December, my home had to get a new roof, shingles, which is different than the story from 60 Minutes, which was a metal roof. When they removed the ridge vent shingles, I had the same view in the 60 Minutes segment from my attic. Replacing those shingles is not a big deal, though the segment made it look like there was a huge crack in the structure because the reporter apparently had no idea that she was looking at, or made no effort to explain it if she was told what she was looking at. That's not to say that the settlement offered by the insurer was grossly insufficient. It may have been, and sure looked that way based on how it was presented. The perhaps bigger issue here is, can we believe anything reported by the media as being unbiased, complete, and accurate? I have my doubts, and part of that doubt is based on personal experiences with the media over decades. So, again, they're going after a specific story, trying to support that story.
Any classic loss is going to at least involve 3 people.
Is he about to say it?
3 people. 3 people.
The restoration.
3 people.
Triangle.
3 people. You're going to have the policyholder, the one who suffered the loss. You're going to have a contractor, the person that's going to fix it. And you're going to have an insurance company and their adjuster.
The restoration.
3 people.
Triangle.
So at a minimum, those are the 3 people that have to be involved in it.
We call it the restoration triangle.
The restoration triangle.
The restoration.
3 people.
Triangle.
Beautiful term. I like that.
What is the contractor's opinion of what is reasonable for repair or replacement? What does the policy say about those particular items? And then what does the policyholder feel is in line with restoring their property to resemble pre-loss conditions with materials of like kind and quality? What we call the insurance claim standard.
The standard.
Partner at Zell LLP, Stephen Badger, made a comment saying, man, when you watch this piece, it's hard not to reach any other conclusions than they clearly had more than $15,000 in damage. But he also wants to keep this report in perspective. 1, an insurer has the right to modify a field adjuster's estimate and apply policy coverage to that estimate when the changes relate to the application of policy coverage. That is proper. However, when such changes are made, the name of the adjuster who made the changes should be on the revised estimate. So I think most people would agree. Yes, please tell us in the policy where this is the change that you're making and who made this change. I think what these adjusters are upset about is their name is left on it. We've had, as contractors, collaboration and our name's left on it. It's like, wait a minute, you made that your estimate. You need to change that.
What I would call robust dialogue.
Robust dialogue.
Robust dialogue.
The other key distinction is what Stephen Bush is trying to draw out. These are guidelines that they're citing.
The insurance company's guidelines.
Not policy. So there's a big difference, especially if you're a consumer. Your policy spells out specific language, what is and isn't covered, how it's to be, administrated. And then there's these guidelines, which are industry standards is one of the things that carriers like to cite, or common practices that become guidelines or expectations by the carrier.
When you start complicating the claim,
He's making a good comment. The policy should have precedence, but what they're drawing out in these stories is guidelines.
This is not a game, cupcake!
His second point is an insurer has the right to make factual changes to a field adjuster's estimate based on mistakes or disagreements with the field adjuster's position. But again, any such changes must be properly documented. The field adjuster should be involved in the discussion, and the name of whoever made the changes should be on the revised estimate. This is tricky in a storm situation, and we even tell some people, even on local claims, that maybe an adjuster writes a quick estimate based on either documentation from what happened in the mitigation or some photos, those kinds of things. And maybe that's an initial scope and payout. So there's, if you're looking at it optimistically, so there's money in the pot for the customer to try to move forward. If you're looking at it pessimistically, maybe they're trying to trap you into thinking like, okay, this is the settlement, and well, you accepted it, you started cashing the check, so you must have agreed with it. Again, there should be a conversation, and to be able to think, that every field adjuster gets it right. I mean, a lot of times we have friends that dispatch and, you're working 12, 16-hour days because it's just loss after loss after loss after a huge catastrophe. And the insurance companies are under strict guidelines, regulations to get those assessments out. There is complexity there that should not be dismissed. He's talking about not jumping to conclusions. In his experience, he's reviewed thousands of claims. He doesn't believe this type of thing is systemic. But when it is caught, it should be called out.
This is not okay.
The one caveat, though, is if a contractor commits fraud or these kind of discrepancies, they can face immediate fines and even, jail time. Whereas the insurance companies, it doesn't seem to be equal. And I think in the in one of the promo pieces we released, they said that this is not going to change until someone goes home in handcuffs.
Faking the facts on a claim is not acceptable, and there should be legal consequences for that.
You got a homeowner versus an insurance company, so facing the idea that they have to sue the insurance company, go through this lengthy court case, if you're a discrepancy between almost $250,000 and $15,000, maybe that's worth it. But if they're just shaving a bit off of every loss and leaving people with just shy of what they need, some people probably a lot of times just move forward. To say that the scales aren't tipped in the favor of the insurance companies would be disingenuous by anyone, in the sense that the resources they have, we're required to have homeowners, auto insurance, these kinds of things, even medical insurance. So we're forced into a relationship that almost always feels inherently adversarial, whether you're a consumer or a contractor, and then they hold the bag, they get to make the rules.
Great story, compelling and rich.
Thank you for tuning in to the DYOJO podcast. We hope you were informed.
Yeah, so I've learned something here.
And entertained.
Are you not entertained?
DYOJO.com/podcast. You can buy John a beer, you can support the show, or you can buy one of the books I've written, the last one being How to Suck Less at Estimating.
What am I supposed to do?
And you can find them on Amazon.
There's nothing like it out there.
Stephen Bush made a comment on LinkedIn, or a statement as well. The recent 60 Minutes episode has shed crucial light on the alarming practices within the insurance industry, confirming what I and others at Merlin Law Group have long fought against. We are deeply grateful to CBS and the investigative journalists for their thorough and impactful reporting. He says this episode exposed systemic issues far beyond isolated incidents, exemplified by Mr. Jerry Rapkin's case. These revelations validate our ongoing efforts to protect policyholders' rights and underscore the urgent need for industry-wide reform. We extend our heartfelt appreciation to Doug Quinn and the American Policyholder Association, APA, for their pivotal role in this investigation. Their commitment to transparency and fairness and the insurance industry has been instrumental to bringing these issues to national attention. We urge others to join us in their support of APA efforts. The scope of the problem revealed deeply troubling practices. 1, deliberate manipulation of claims estimates, misrepresentation of facts to avoid fair payouts to policyholders at their most urgent time of need, and systematic exploitation of policyholders in their most vulnerable moments. These are widespread practices.
If you want things to change, there's a couple mechanisms for it. You can legislate it, or you can get it in a courtroom. Change.
We did an episode a while back with Bill Wilson and David Princeton of Advocate Claims Service, and talking about, is there a way to equalize the claim games?
On the policyholder side, I'm not aware of anything that advances the interests of the policyholder more than United Policyholders does, so uphelp.org.
Every day is a fight for survival.
As much as UP does, I don't see enough contractors supporting it. I don't see enough public adjusters supporting it.
Oh. What the hell are we doing here, Harry?
When I think of the amount of contractors that depend on favorable laws, favorable legislation,
dang, Billy,
nobody's banging down their door to help them be better funded to take up those fights.
Not all actors are bad. Sometimes it's miscommunication, but when it goes bad, it can be severe. And, people are left holding the bag when others are not following through on their contractual obligations.
those are some horrible stories.
What the industry needs is conversations like this.
Thursdays are for DYOJO podcast.
What are you, stupid? Mindset change.
Helping contractors shorten their dang learning curve.
Once you get to the point where you're not willing to listen or not willing to learn, you pound sand.
DYOJO podcast.
This is the stupidest thing I've ever heard.
Complete hogwash.